What's going on, guys? Welcome to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And today we have a fabulous show set up for you guys. We'll be covering the Niners, the Warriors, Cal Bears, Stanford Cardinals, San Jose State Spartans, college football. Maybe talk a little bit about the World Series. But guys, we had a pivotal game this past Sunday night as the Niners took on the Dallas Cowboys. They head into the bye week. We're going to cover that game thoroughly and the implications it has on the rest of the season. The Warriors are off to a fantastic start, starting the season 3-1 and breaking records all at the same time. Cal had a massive game in which they kicked a lot of ass. Stanford still has a lot of work to do, and the Spartans, they had a tough one, which we're going to cover all that and more here on the show. Guys, you're listening to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. What's up, guys? Welcome to the NorCal Sports Report. I am your host, Andre Fernandez. And today, like I said earlier, we're going to be covering Niners, Warriors, Cal, Stanford football, San Jose State Spartans, 3C2A, all that kind of good shit. We're going to be talking about that. Niners had a big week. It was do or die for the Niners. They couldn't afford to lose another game, and they got the job done. But we're going to talk about that just a little bit later in the show. Taryn writes, hey, Stanford women's volleyball is still kicking butt and taking names, still top 5 in the nation. They're always top 5. They're one of the top teams in all of sports. May it be women's softball, women's volleyball, baseball. They're always a contender, and that's why, when they were in the Pac-12 had a lot of competitive sports when it came to not just college football, but in all sports. So, yeah, no, Stanford is definitely a contender in a lot of different collegiate sports. So don't get that mistaken. But guys, before we get any further in the show, obviously we want to shout out the network. Follow IE Sports Radio on X, IG, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. You can find IE Sports Radio on all of these platforms that carry podcasts, maybe Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Castbox, Deezer, Podcasts, you name it, it's there. So check out IE Sports Radio wherever you find your podcasts. And also check out iesportsradio.com. You'll find the whole listing of all of our show, the whole catalog of all of the shows that IE Sports Radio has to offer. And when you go there, definitely check out IE Sports Radio / the NorCal Sports Report. That's where you'll find this show right here. And so you never miss an episode of the NorCal Sports Report. Also, while you're at IE Sports Radio, check out IE Sports Radio / shop, where you can pick up some merch with this cool logo right here. This cool logo. You can get it on a t-shirt, sweatshirt, hat. You name it, it's there. Check out iesportsradio.com / shop. Pick up some merch and help support the network. You can also follow me over at NorCal Sports IESR. That's the handle for the NorCal Sports Report account over on X. Definitely follow me there. And you can also follow me at Dre Area Sports on X, on Instagram, and on YouTube. And guys, one more thing too that I just wanted to say before we get to our sponsors is that this channel puts out a ton of content every single week. I'm talking about IE Sports Radio. So please do me a favor, subscribe to IE Sports Radio over on YouTube. We're trying to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the football season. And I think we could do that based on the amount of content this channel it puts out every single day, every single week. So guys, when you get a chance, go to IE Sports Radio and hit subscribe with that bell notification button so you're always notified of any show that goes live on the IE Sports Radio YouTube channel. And while you're there, also go over to Dre Area Sports YouTube channel. It's my channel. And like, share, and of course, subscribe to the Dre Area Sports channel. I would appreciate that. Now, without further ado, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. The jerky that's on a whole other planet. This stuff is delicious. Definitely check out Planet Jerky. You can follow them over on IG at Planet Jerky. And if you want to place an order for this premium brisket beef jerky, you can do so by going to planetjerky.net. Definitely check that out. We're also brought to you by Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You can follow Seal the Deal over on IG, Instagram, over at Seal the Deal _wax seals. If you want to place an order for the wax seals, go to iesportsradio.com/Seal the Deal Wax Seals, and they will help you seal that deal. Definitely, without a doubt. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the 49ers game against the Dallas Cowboys, how that game went, how it played out, the overall stats, and what it means for the Niners moving forward into the bye week and coming out of that bye week. And how important this game really was for the San Francisco 49ers. Guys, you're listening to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at SealTheDeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios that learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Minutes past the hour here on the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, this past Sunday, the Niners took on the Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to talk about Niners Cowboys, and here we go. The Niners took on the Cowboys. They won by a final score of 30-24. Now, this game to me was a game of two halves. The first half for the Niners was very, very frustrating offensively. They really couldn't get nothing going. The Cowboys were featuring a six-man front that was giving the Niners problems offensively, especially trying to run the football. Not to mention, J.P. Mason, one of the leaders in rushing in the NFL, went down with an injury, and thank you, Aaron. My son Aaron just made this, so I want to show you guys. Isn't that just wow? That's incredible. Thank you, buddy. JP Mason went down with an injury, so they brought in Isaac Guerendo, and really, it felt like once Guerendo came into the game, things really ramped up for the Niners offense. Isaac Guerendo ended the game with 14 rushes for 85 yards. His longest was a 19-yard run. He had one touchdown on the ground, and he was averaging 6.1 a carry. That's great for Isaac Guerendo, who's got a ton of speed and a ton of athletic ability. But Jordan Mason re-aggravated that shoulder. He ended the game with 6 carries and only 18 yards. But once he came into the game, Guerendo, the offense seemed to kind of click, and the running game really opened up. But early on, the problems continued for Brock Purdy. He had 2 possessions in which there was a third down play where he had to hit Kittle for a first down, and he overthrew it. So he needs to be able to hit that target and keep the chains moving. Later in the game, still in the first half, they went for it on fourth down. He had a wide open Deebo Samuel that was cutting across the middle. That would have led to a first down. Unfortunately, he threw it behind Deebo, and Deebo was not able to hang on. And now there were some people out there that were saying, "Oh, well, Deebo dropped that pass." He literally had to reach back to catch that. So I don't put that on Deebo. I put that on Brock, because Brock's got to put it right there where it has to be at. So with that being said, Brock was struggling. The offense was struggling, and they only scored 6 points in the first half. While on the other hand, Dallas was able to move the ball with more ease than I would say the 49ers. So going into halftime, the score was 10-6. I was a little pissed because really the Niners had a chance to really go up big and to really push out that lead. They could have had up to 17 points, I believe, in that first half. But unfortunately, they only had 6. Going into the second half, they really turned things around, and we got to see the Niner offense, the offense that we saw last year. We got to see that offense. And so we started seeing short passes with lots of yak yards to both Deebo Samuel and to George Kittle, who was a beast on National Tight Ends Day. George Kittle ended the game with 6 catches for 128 yards and a touchdown. His longest was a 43-yard catch that happened in the second half. He was averaging 21.3 a catch. That is huge. Deebo Samuel, who also had a huge touchdown called back in the first half, he finished the game with 4 catches for 71 yards. And Deebo was clutch. Ricky Pearsall, who filled in for the injured Brandon Ayuk, he was 4 catches for 38 yards. But overall, in the second half, we saw Brock Purdy overcome the adversity, overcome the struggles that he was facing against that Cowboys defense. And for the first time this year, not to say that Kyle Shanahan can't do this, but for the first time this year, we saw drastic changes being made in the second half, adjustments, I should say, And we saw the Niners really open up offensively and take advantage of what Dallas was doing defensively and use that to their advantage. Brock Purdy ended the game with 18-26 for 260 yards and a touchdown. He had a 114 quarterback rating. On the other end, Dak Prescott, 25 of 38. He threw the ball 38 times. 243 yards, 2 touchdowns that came in garbage time, and 2 picks. Dak Prescott is probably one of the most underwhelming quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life. The guy just got a huge contract, and he's done nothing with it. I mean, literally, his 2 interceptions were so costly to the Cowboys in this game. The second one was the worst. The Niners, coming out of the half, just ran down the field and scored a touchdown super fast, as my brother would say, super fast. And then what happens? Dak throws an interception to Diamador Lenore, who had a baller game, and he gave the ball right back to the Niners, who went and scored a touchdown. So that was really cool. And just seeing... Hang on, buddy. Hang on. But Dak Prescott, really, it's like, this is a guy who got paid a huge contract. This is a guy who has a lot of potential. He's supposed to be the quarterback of the future for the Cowboys. I don't see it. Every time he plays the Niners, he plays horrible. He turns the ball over. He's inaccurate. And it's not just against the Niners, but it's against the rest of the NFL. So to me, it was a bad move for the Cowboys to give him this big of a contract, but I don't know what other chance they had to do anything. But hey, it's their problem, not ours. Rushing-wise for the Cowboys, they had Ezekiel Elliott. He had 10 rushes for 34 yards and a touchdown. But really, they had no running game whatsoever. And so one of the things that the Niners were struggling with was stopping the run. And I think that in this game, since the Cowboys had no running game, it was such a benefit for the Niners not to have to deal with that. Last week, we saw the Chiefs running hard right at Charvarius Ward, who struggles against the run. And this week, they had no running game, so they really didn't even take advantage of it. So good for the Niners, bad for the Dallas Cowboys. Taryn writes, I'm a little worried about the Niners following the first half, but I had a feeling they would get it together in the second half. Fourth quarter was a little iffy, though. So let's talk about the fourth quarter. This is something the Niners have had a problem with all season long. They did it against the Rams. They did it against the Cardinals. They almost did it against the Seahawks, and they did it again against the Cowboys, where they allowed the teams to get back in the game. You were up 27-10 against the Cowboys, and you allowed them to score 2 quick touchdowns in the fourth quarter to be down by 6. That's something that Nick Sorensen, our defensive coordinator, needs to figure out. That needs to stop now. You cannot be giving up leads when going against the bigger, better teams. Imagine if you're going against the Chiefs and you gave up those points. They would be right back in that game, and they wouldn't stop. And later on, this year we have the Lions, we have the Bills. So it's like, and the Packers. They may not even have Jordan Love in that game. They might. But they got to stop. I mean, they're ranked, I want to say they're ranked 30th in the fourth quarter defensively. That's terrible. That just cannot happen. And the Niners, when they got up 27-10, they went into like a prevent mode. And that allowed the Cowboys to capture huge chunk yards and move the ball down the field. The one thing that the Cowboys didn't do, which I was thoroughly surprised, was that they didn't attack over top. They didn't go deep to Kevondre Turpin. And I really thought they were going to get back in this game. Instead, well, it didn't matter because they went straight to CeeDee Lamb. He had 13 catches for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a monster game at the end of the day. But granted, those 2 touchdowns came in the fourth quarter, which some even Cowboys fans would argue that was garbage time. Because if it happened earlier in the game, it'd be a little different. Taryn writes, Niners need to win badly, and I know they would get it. Niners own Dak, and the Cowboys, they definitely do. The Niners own Dak and the Cowboys just like the Chiefs own Kyle Shanahan and Niners. It's just, I hate saying it. I hate saying it out loud, but it's true. We have to beat the Chiefs one of these days, and the Cowboys just can't seem to beat the Niners no matter how hard they try. Another big thing was the kicker, Anders Carlson. He was 3 for 3 on kicks. His longest was a 50-yarder. That was awesome to see. And special teams as well. Special teams played so much better in this game. It was probably the best game they've had special team-wise. This is the one game where they didn't give up a big punt return or kick return or one for big yardage. They hit all their field goals. They kicked all their punts. They didn't make any mistakes that cost the Niners the game or allowed the opposing team to get back in the game. That's been a problem for the Niners all season long. And we finally saw Brian Schneider get his special teams unit together and have a solid game. So good on special teams, but we got to see more of that moving forward. And this was a game they had to have. I mean, they were going into this game 3-4. You cannot go to the bye week at 3-5 because that means that you can only lose maybe one more game, if that. So at this point, the Niners had to win this game. The Cowboys, on the other hand, were in the same situation where they had to win the game to stay relevant, and they lost. The Niners won this game. It was a big win for the Niners. We saw Brock Purdy overcome adversity, have a much better second half, and not only that, but he had how many did he have? Let me double check. He rushed the ball 8 times for 56 yards. He was averaging 7 yards per run. And Brock Purdy, with his legs and with his arm, got the Niners back in this game and got them to take control of this game. But this is the one problem I have with the Niners is that they never play a complete 4 quarters of football. When the offense gets it together, the defense makes a mistake and gives up 14 points in the fourth quarter. When the defense is playing really good, the offense can't get it going. When either one of those are playing good, the special teams makes a mistake and gets the other team back in the game. So they got to have a game where special teams, flawless. Offense, on point. Defense, shut down. Once we have that game, that's going to really change things for the Niners. But help is on the way. Coming out of the bye week, they are scheduled to get back Christian McCaffrey. He is an integral and a huge part of this offense. Without him, we've seen how the offense, especially in the red zone, has struggled. Now, in this last game against the Cowboys, the Niners had good red zone numbers. They were 3 for 4, which is better than they have been in most games. But getting a guy like Christian McCaffrey back is absolutely huge. Not only as a runner in the running back position, but as a receiver. And the distraction and what he does to defenses every single game. Getting him back he's our best player, and we absolutely need him back. And I can't wait to see McCaffrey against the Buccaneers, which I'm calling it right now. Niners are going to win that game, and I think they win big because the Buccaneers are without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who got his foot turned sideways, which is really scary to look at. But they're without their top receivers. And we saw without the top receivers that it was much harder for Baker Mayfield to get things done. And that's understandable. I mean, Brock had the same problem. He had receivers dropping left and right against the Chiefs game. His top 3 receivers were out. And he had a tough time getting the ball to his receivers, guys that he hadn't practiced with. So we saw that. The Niners should spin the block on the Bucs. Yeah, I think they're going to win that game. And when you look at the remaining games or the games they have moving forward, we have the Buccaneers, we have the Seahawks, we have the Packers, and the Bills. I could see us winning all 4 games. I can also see us losing one of those games, and the Cardinals as well. I think we get revenge on both. I think we get revenge on the Cardinals, and we beat the Seahawks because we always beat the Seahawks these days, and we're at home in that game. And I'm not even sure they're going to have DK Metcalf. So I see the Niners really going on a run after the bye week, similar to what they did last year. And I think it starts in Tampa. That's a game that they have to win, and they have to dominate and set the tone for the second half of the year. And I think they will. I saw a lot of good things out of the offense in the second half. We saw a lot more short yardage passes that led to more yak yards for the receivers, and that's what the Niners were the best at last year. This year, they've gone back to more of a 5-step, 7-step drops where they're throwing the ball downfield. And I think that's fine to mix in with what you're doing, but the Niners need to stick to what works. And what works is those short yardage passes that leads to big yak yardage from Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Ricky Pearsall. Pearsall had an end-around run, jet sweep if you call it. He ran for 39 yards. That was great to see him out there. And to me, I think that Ricky Pearsall could really fill in where Brandon Ayuk left off. He has the hands. He has the separation ability to really kind of bring what we lost in Brandon Ayuk. And not to mention, Ayuk isn't going to be back by week 1 next year. He's not going to be back until this time next year. He tore his MCL and his ACL and some of his meniscus as well. So his knee is all banged up. So it'll be great to see him back next year. But this year, I think the Niners are still in a good position to compete and get back to the Super Bowl. Now, there have been rumors out there about the trade deadline coming up. I think the Niners really need to focus on their defensive line, either a defensive end or an interior defensive lineman. That's where they need to focus on. And they've already said there's been reports that the Niners probably aren't going to go after a receiver because they're confident with the group they have. I'm confident with the group they have. I like the group they have with Deebo Samuel, Ricky Pearsall. Those guys out there. Jawan Jennings when he comes back. Chris Conley. I think they can get it done with the receivers that they have. Don't forget Jacob Cowing as well, who's a burner. So I think I would like to see them go after someone on the defensive line. Azeez Ojulari from the Giants would be a great pickup. That would help a lot. I saw rumors that teams were inquiring about Myles Garrett. Holy cow. I would give up multiple first-round picks to get Myles Garrett. I'll tell you that. If they got Myles Garrett, which I don't think they will, but if they did, that would be an absolute freaking game changer. Unbelievable. But we'll see what they do. There's also been rumors that they're connected to trade talks with with both DeForest Buckner and DJ Jones. Buckner of the Colts, Jones of the Broncos. Both are former Niners, and I would love to see both or either or back in a Niners uniform. That would put them right back at the top. I would love to see DeForest Buckner back in a Niners uniform. That would be. He's the one that got away. He's the one they should have resigned. But that would be amazing if we got either one of those guys back, because the Niners definitely need some help in the interior on the defensive line. So Niners, Buccaneers, we're going to talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the show, but the Niners kicked ass against the Cowboys. They really put it to them in the second half, and they won by a final score of 30-24. Yes, they allowed it to get close again, which is something they need to work on. Nick Sorensen, I'm looking at you. But the Niners ended their first half of the season at 4-4. Could have been worse. You're talking about a season so far that had multiple injuries. Christian McCaffrey, injuries to the defensive line, Javon Hargrave, Juwan Jennings, J.P. Mason. A lot of these guys were banged up, and they had to persevere. And I would say 4-4 is not that bad. It could have been a lot better. This team had a real chance to go 6-1. I'm sorry, 7-1. Losing only one game to the Vikings. And that would be an entirely different story of how the league views them. But it is what it is. They're 4-4. But I think this team has the talent and the experience to bounce back from this and really go on a run. So I'm really excited to see what the Niners will do in the second half of the season. So that starts not this week, but next week, because the Niners have a bye. When we come back, we're going to be covering college football, Cal, Stanford, San Jose State. And we're going to be covering the Golden State Warriors, who are off to one of the hottest starts they've ever had going into a season. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. Guys, you're watching and listening to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph DeLeese, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate, diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold, and have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph DeLeese, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Thank you, Ralph. 33 minutes past the hour here on the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's talk a little college football. Now, the Cal Bears, look, Cal has had a roller coaster of a season. I had high hopes for Cal, and I still do. But they had a chance to really make a name for themselves in the ACC with a big game against Miami a few weeks ago, and they had a big lead, and they couldn't hold it. And we're talking at the time, they were the number 8 ranked team, that is the Hurricanes. So that would have been huge for Cal to beat a top ranked team, a top 10 ranked team. And they couldn't get it done. They had a close game last week as well. 2 weeks ago. They lost 24-23. That was a heartbreaker. But this past Saturday, they fucking whooped ass. They kicked the shit out of the Oregon State Beavers 44-7. Brandon Mendoza was ACC Player of the Week. That was great to see. He was 27-36 for 364 yards and 2 touchdowns. No picks, no sacks, all talent. He's going to be so good. I hope he stays around longer, but he was badass, and he had a great game. The Jet, Javian Thomas, had 7 rushes for 33 yards and a touchdown. Mendoza also ran for five times for 25 yards. Jaden Ott, 10 rushes for 11 yards. Isaiah Hunter had 4 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. And Sherrod Grizzle had 5 catches for 95 yards. I love how Mendoza really spread the ball out. For the receivers, even the running backs who were out there receiving, you're talking 5 catches, 4 catches, 4 catches, 6 catches, 4 catches, and then a bunch of ones for the other players as well. So he was really spreading the ball around and keeping Oregon State defense on their toes. And the Cardinal completely dominated. Now, they've always had a good defense this year, but going against a team like Oregon State, who actually started the year 4-0. Now they've lost 4 consecutive games, which is not good. They're actually first in the Pac-12, which right now consists of like 2 teams, so that doesn't mean much. Cal moves to 4-4. They're 17th in the ACC. I had a banner for that too. I didn't put it up. See, Cal Bears, and then there's the information. But look, like I said, I think Cal can still win a lot more games, and this is their first year in the ACC, so I'm excited to see what they can do. And they have a game coming up against Syracuse. And I think they can beat Syracuse, who were once ranked in the top 25. So I think Cal has a chance to still make some noise in the ACC in college football this year. Let's head on over to the farm and look at Stanford football. Stanford lost to Wake Forest 27-24. Stanford falls to 2-6 on the year in the ACC. It's been a tough year for Stanford. But I think that moving into the ACC gives them a better competitive advantage. It allows them to, their recruiting should be better because they're in a competitive division in the ACC, or I should say conference. Ashton Daniels made his return. He was 24-31 for 214 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. Hank Bachmer, the quarterback for the Wake Forest, he was 20 of 30 for 245 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. And like he always does, Ashton Daniels ran 11 rushes for 54 yards. Ryan Butler, 4 rushes for 34 yards. And Chris Davis Jr., 4 rushes for 28 yards. Alec Ayomanor had 11 catches for 96 yards. He's their top receiver, always. And then Sam Roush, 6 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown. But unfortunately, they could not stop Wake Forest, and they lost 27-24. They gave up that field goal in the fourth quarter, and that ended up being the game-winning field goal for the Wake Forest. Wake Forest moves to 7th in the ACC at 4-4. Stanford falls to 2-6 and is 15th in the ACC moving forward. Let's go on to the San Jose State Spartans. Now, the Spartans had a tough game. They lost 33-10 to Fresno State. I had high hopes that they'd be able to pull this one off, but unfortunately, it just did not work out. Sad. Walker Eggett ended the game with 14-31 for a touchdown and 2 picks. Mikey Keene was 30 of 41 for the Fresno Bulldogs, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Floyd Chalk, 10 rushes, 89 yards. Nick Nash, 8 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown. That's baller status like he always does every single week. And Justin Lockhart, 4 catches for 93 yards. Nick Nash is the heart and soul of that team, and the guy is unbelievable. But yeah, when it comes to Fresno, I'm sorry, when it comes to San Jose State, they've had a lot of close games, and they had some games in which they've really made some noise, and they've had some games, where they kind of just did not come through with the win. They lost to Colorado State 31-24. That was a game they had to have, but they won the week before, which is last week, before Fresno, to Wyoming 24-14. I really thought they were going to beat Colorado State, and they did not. So we'll see how that goes. Their upcoming game is against Oregon State, the team that Cal just completely obliterated. So I think that San Jose State can get that win and move to 4-2. So we'll see how the Spartans take on Oregon State next week, this coming Saturday, in college football. So go Spartans! I believe they can figure it out, because I think they have a good team. I really do. Let's talk about the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors. Okay, so I was excited for this season because the Golden State Warriors are one of my favorite teams. Obviously, they're my basketball team. That's the team that I like. And they won by a final score of, where's my banner? 124-106. Now, this is a game in which they did not have Steph Curry. They did not have Andrew Wiggins, and they did not have DeAnthony Melton. So already you're down 3 out of your 12-man rotation. And I'm like, man, that's going to be tough, especially without Steph Curry. I mean, he's their superstar. But guess what? The Warriors had a tough first half. They were getting killed in the first half, in the first quarter especially. Let me pull up that number there. In the first quarter, they were down 31-14. Second quarter, they came back 33-20. They won the second quarter, and they went on to win the third and the fourth quarter. Third quarter, they came out and outscored the Pelicans 40-28, and they never let it go at all. Looking at the starting lineups, Draymond Green, 7 assists. He's always good for that. Moses Moody got the start because of the injured Andrew Wiggins, he had 17 points. Let me pull this right here. Ugh. He had 17 points. Trace Jackson Davis, I freaking love this guy. He only had 3 points, but he had 5 assists, a block, and 2 rebounds. Brandon Pajemski, this guy was scoring. He was hitting threes. He was hitting in the paint, jump shots. He was everywhere. He had 19 points, had 5 assists, and 3 rebounds, too, because he's a good rebounding guard. Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield got the start over Jonathan Kuminga, and they announced yesterday that Kuminga is not going to be the starter moving forward, that Buddy Hield will now be the starter. Now, this could change as time goes on, but I think this is a good move because they saw how hot Buddy Hield was coming off the bench. Now, the funny thing about this is he got off to a very slow start. In the second half, he didn't even start. They had Lindy Waters, the third, starting. Lindy Waters had 21 points. A guy who, I guess, instead of a 12-man rotation, you got to make it a 13-man rotation because this guy was balling. He had 8 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and he had 21 points. A guy who's barely seen the court all year. Buddy Hield, coming off the bench in the second half, he ended the game with 28 points on 28 minutes. Very efficient. Also had 2 steals as well. Look at this. Draymond, 1 steal. Pajemski, 1 steal. Hield, 2 steals. Lindy Waters, a steal. Kuminga, 2 steals. Looney, 2 steals. Kyle Anderson, 5 steals. Reese Beekman? I don't even know who that is. He even had a steal. The Warriors defensively are playing out of their minds right now, and it's keeping them in the game, and it's making them competitive, which I absolutely love. I love seeing that. Now, what about Jonathan Kuminga? He didn't start. Many are questioning, is this the guy they want to invest all this money into? Well, he ended the game with 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, a block, and 17 points. So he had a really good game. Not as good as Lindy Waters, but still, he had a good game. Kevon Looney had 9 rebounds. And Gary Payton II, he had 7 points as well. So the Warriors overall had a really good game, and they beat a team in which they were scheduled to lose that game, to be honest with you, because they were like, oh, well, they don't have Wiggins, they don't have Curry. They should lose. But no, they won, and they won by a final score of 124-106. They really, really took it to them, and they beat the crap out of them in the second half, and I love seeing it. They play again today at 7 o'clock at home against the Pelicans in a back-to-back, which is crazy if you ask me, but so we'll see how they play in the second matchup, which is later today over on NBC Sports Bay Area. But the Warriors, so here's the thing that excites me about the Warriors. They're 3-1 on the year. This is a team that most people said, oh, they can't really compete with the good teams. Well, they've been able to compete, and not only compete, but dominate in this first part of the season. Their opening game against Portland, they won 140-104. That was the biggest win by point margin in Warriors history on opening night. Then they played Portland, where they got to see good old Lauri Markkanen, who they almost traded for. They smoked the Jazz 127-86. Now, they lost to the Clippers 112-104. That was a game where Steph Curry injured his ankle and had to leave the game. So, I mean, if you look at it that way, I mean, they kept it close. But the Warriors are off to a great start. Now, we know Steph Curry is not going to play. He didn't play last night, not going to play tonight. But he'll be back after that, most likely. They say he's going to miss a couple of games. But after New Orleans, we got the Houston Rockets, the Washington Wizards, and then the Boston Celtics. So, if anything, if they're going to hold him out for as long as they can, he'll come back against Boston. But I think he comes back against Houston. And I see them beating Houston and Washington. And moving to 5-1. This is a very competitive team. It's a very deep team as well. There's a lot of things the Warriors are doing this year that I've been very, very excited about. And not to mention, their roster is just super deep and filled with experienced players and filled with players that have been around one another for multiple years. Yeah, so last night's starting five is not their normal starting five. Obviously, they're down 2 players from the starting five. But you're talking about Draymond, Moody, Jackson Davis, Podziemski. They've all played with each other for 4 to 2 years. This is their second year with Podziemski and with Jackson Davis. Yeah, guys like Jonathan Kuminga, Kevon Looney, Kyle Anderson, who can bring the ball up the court and has a really high basketball IQ. Gary Payton II. It's a lot of guys. DeAnthony Melton, when he's out right now, but when he's in, he's a tenacious defender, and he's been shooting the ball really well. Wiggins is playing really good defense and scoring at a high rate. And, of course, Steph Curry. I mean, come on. But they're the only team in the NBA that has a 12-man rotation. And that's huge. Think about trying to play a team that's 12 players deep. I mean, everyone's fresh because you're constantly rotating through players. Now, obviously, injury is going to limit that. But I absolutely love what I'm seeing from the Golden State Warriors. And they look like the old Warriors. They look like the Warriors when it was Stephen Clay and Draymond, when they're running up and down the court, fast break style. A lot of energy, a lot of speed. And that's what I like to see from the Warriors. That's the best part, is they're playing like the old Warriors, and they're playing tenacious defense. When you look at their roster, and you look at the type of defenders that they have on the roster, especially when they're healthy, you got Draymond, great defender. Moody, a good defender. Jackson Davis, a good defender. Podziemski, a good defender. Kuminga, a good defender. Gary Payton II. DeAnthony Melton, Andrew Wiggins, a lot of defensive players that can both play hard-nosed defense and also score on the other end. So this is a deep team, and I think a lot of teams are going to have a problem playing the Warriors, especially when they get Steph Curry back, which will be very, very soon. So I'm excited to see what the Warriors do this season, because the Warriors, everyone's counting them out. But I'm telling you right now, this team, as long as they can stay healthy, they're going to be one of the top teams in the league because of their depth. They're just going to be too much for a lot of teams to handle. So I'm excited to see what the Warriors do. But like I said, the Warriors beat the Pelicans 124-106 and moved to 3-1 on the season. 3-1 on the season. It's great. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to cover some 3C2A scores, Sharks, Earthquakes, and a preview of the Niners versus Buccaneers in 2 weeks. The Niners come out of the bye week. You're listening to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
The light is red, the kids are in bed, which means it is time for Mile High Musings with me, Aaron Yowell, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
$11:51 a.m. here on the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's run through some more scores real quick before we get to our Niner preview. Sharks beat the LA Kings 4-2. Sharks have won 2 in a row. 2 in a row for the Sharks, who had a huge losing streak going on for a while there. But they moved to 2-7-2. Still a rough year for the Sharks. San Jose Earthquakes, they lose 3-1 to LAFC. Another tough year for the San Jose Earthquakes. But, having said that, where's the thing at? Why do I... Oh, there we go. We had some technical difficulties, but we got that straightened out now. Let's go to some 3C2A scores. How about that? San Mateo took down Fullerton 49-14. They moved to San Mateo moves to 6-1 on the year. They're balling right now, and they have a really, really good team. I'm excited to see what CSM can do. Butte lost to American River 31-30. Butte drops to 6-1, their first loss of the year. American River moves to 4-3. Sac City College, Sac City! They lost to Fresno City 34-7. Ouch! Sac City drops to 3-4. Santa Rosa, what? They lost to Sierra 41-9. Santa Rosa drops to 2-5. Sierra moves to 4-3. As we round things out on the 3C2A scores, Modesto, they took down Relief 52-10, which was awesome. San Joaquin Delta, they got demolished by Diablo Valley 59-14. Monterey Peninsula took down Gavilan 64-13. Monterey Peninsula moves to 7-0. They're balling right now. And good on them. San Jose, they moved to 5-2 as they win 50-48 against Coalinga. Good on San Jose. Love seeing that. Shasta, they took down Feather River 48-28. Shasta moves to 2-3. Feather River, they dropped to 0-6. It's a tough year for Feather River. It's a tough year. Let's just try to do what they can. Try to do what they can. And El Camino, they beat Santa Barbara 48-26. Yeah, 48-26. So that rounds out the 3C2A scores for the NorCal Sports Report. If you want more scores, go to 3C2A.com and they have all the scores and stats for all those games. Definitely fun to follow. Definitely interesting and some great talent in 3C2A. So let's talk Niners Buccaneers. We talked about earlier how the Niners are coming into this game getting more healthy. Hopefully getting Juwan Jennings back. So they'll have Debo, Pearsall, Jennings. Getting Christian McCaffrey back, which is a huge part of their offense. Unbelievably huge part of their offense. And he makes that offense go. This will also give J.P. Mason a chance to recover because he's getting a little beat up. So I think he takes a break. And you have a 2 running back system of both CMC and Garendo just for coming out of the bye week. But I think Mason and CMC will be a devastating 1-2 punch coming out of the bye week, which I hope Mason's ready coming out of the bye. That would be awesome. Absolutely awesome. And on top of that, they're talking about Dre Greenlaw possibly coming back. Now, Greenlaw, as far as I hear, he may not be back after the bye, but we're looking at possibly a return in December. Devondre Campbell just had his best game of the year against the Cowboys. Let's hope he can keep that up. And they got Talanoa Hufanga, who's going to play in a cast. But at this point, even if Hufanga comes back, I don't think he uproots Malik Mustafa. Malik Mustafa is balling out there. He's hitting hard in the backfield on running backs, and he's breaking up plays in the secondary. I like Mustafa and Jair Brown at the safety positions because they hit hard and they make receivers pay for coming in their area. So I'm excited about that. But I think with the Niners coming out of the bye with Christian McCaffrey, I see them dominating this game. And I see them winning this game 35-21. I see them putting up a lot of points, especially the fact that they got Christian McCaffrey coming back. And I think the Niners are going to go back to the short passing game to free up more yak yards for their receivers, Deebo Samuel, Ricky Pearsall, and George Kittle. So I think Niners are in the driver's seat, and bearing any other devastating injury, I think they're going to go on a run. I see them taking down all the teams. The one game I can see them losing is either against the Packers or against the Bills. But I can see them winning all the games. Niners are set up for success, and I'm really excited to see what they're going to do moving forward, especially in the second half of the year, especially when they get Dre Greenlaw back. That's the guy they need on defense. Boy, do they miss him. But like I said, I think Niners win this game 35-21. I see them putting up a big score in Tampa. Last year, we had that big game after the bye against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were coming off a bye themselves and were one of the hottest teams in the league at the time. I see them doing the same thing against the Buccaneers, just going off on them. A statement game, if you will. So let's go Niners. Let's see what they can bring to the table second half. And the trade deadline's approaching quickly. I want to say it's November 5th is the trade deadline. I see them getting somebody for the defensive line, either interior or defensive end. And I think that's where they need the most help. Azeez Ojulari from the Giants would be a good pickup. Myles Garrett probably won't happen. That would be amazing. Or even bringing back one of the two, DeForest Buckner or DJ Jones. I think that would be phenomenal. Would love it. Would love to see it. Absolutely love to see that because the Niners are stacked. They're primed and they're ready to go on a run. And it's going to happen. Starting with the Buccaneers. Guys, that's going to do it for the NorCal Sports Report. I want to thank everyone who came out here in the chat. I want to thank Larry B for setting this up. Shouts out to Planet Jerky and Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. Check those out. Follow me over on NorCal Sports IE. And you can follow me personally over at Dre Area Sports on X, Instagram, and on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and subscribe to IE Sports YouTube channel. We're trying to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers, and I think we can do it. If you're watching on X, just jump over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. It's going to benefit everybody. The Niners going to the bye week. Poised to go on a run, getting Christian McCaffrey back. I'm excited as hell to see it, and I cannot wait. The Warriors take on the Pelicans tonight at 7 p.m. for a rematch. That should be a good game. We'll see how Cal and Stanford shake out along with San Jose State. A whole lot of sports waiting for us next week. Guys, you're listening to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll see you guys next